Hey everyone, this is your captain speaking, and it's so nice to be back here with everybody out there on YouTube. I hope you've all been doing super great in your lives, that you've been filled with love and joy and creativity and passion, emotional intimacy, play, dance, great music. I hope that's all been happening for you. And if it hasn't, maybe it will be soon. That's what I hope. And maybe this is a key week for that to happen because the astrology of this coming week is super special. We've got a very rare, or relatively rare, Moon, Jupiter, Venus triple conjunction. That does generally happen about once a year, but not always. And it's not always visible like it is this week. On the 19th and 20th, actually comes in on the 18th. It gets exact on the 19th, and it's an outgoing wave on the 20th, a 3-day wave that we got to start catching. Even now, the tide is coming in, and we're getting our surfboards out so we can catch this big wave of love and pleasure and big-heartedness and big positive family energy and generous mother force of the universe energy. The kind of energy that just gets you out to be with the people you love the most and where you open your heart to yourself as well and you really are feeling the love. That's probably been happening for a little while here because we've been enjoying a Jupiter-Venus conjunction for at least the last week, probably a little longer than that. And a Jupiter-Venus conjunction is one of the most special energies to experience each year. And so, it's been strong for a little while, and maybe you've felt your hearts opening and you've had some special experiences of intimacy and pleasure, and maybe some social gatherings, some parties, some awesome meals, some great desserts, some extra portions of chocolate. You know what I'm saying? It's that kind of energy. Of course, it's not that for everybody on planet Earth right now. And so I think we need to acknowledge that and send prayers and love to everyone out there that isn't getting that kind of big positive energy. But I want to let you know that it's possible to catch a really nice wave at any point. Right now, and especially as the Moon, Jupiter, Venus triple conjunction forms on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday this week. Maybe it's a day later if you're over in Europe, Asia, and Australia, but that's the general vibe. And I want to encourage you to get out to see this alignment. Venus is in the morning sky right now, and she's conjunct Jupiter. And if you get out about an hour before sunrise, it's visible longer than that. But the best thing that I would recommend is getting out about an hour before sunrise and finding a nice spot to look towards the eastern horizon where the sun rises. And you'll see them. You're going to see Venus and Jupiter. They're the two brightest lights in the sky, except for the sun and the moon. And when we get the exact triple conjunction, or the tightest triple conjunction, on Wednesday, it'll be very striking. It's one of the most special and most beautiful alignments that you can see. I think it's pretty much the most beautiful thing you can see, except if you add a couple more planets in there. Moon, Jupiter, Venus, the three brightest lights in the nighttime sky. And when you get out to see it, something special happens. When you directly commune with the lights in the sky, my feeling is that you get direct intimacy and direct downloads, direct communication. It can happen without seeing them, of course. It can happen very powerfully without seeing them, but there's something extra when you get out to see such a rare and special alignment. So if you get out an hour before sunrise, you'll see them really striking, of course, if the sky is clear, and you'll get to enjoy them shining their light upon you all the way up through sunrise. They're going to be visible at least up until 20 minutes before sunrise, maybe 30 minutes before sunrise. So if you get up an hour before sunrise, you'll get a half hour to hang out with them and pray to them, open and be receptive to guidance from them. You know, it's about your own unique relationship with these planetary beings. And when it comes to the moon, Jupiter, and Venus, it's about opening to support and love and kindness and generosity, and also sharing that. Opening your heart as wide as you can, opening your mother energy, your caring energy as much as you can, and channeling it out towards the ones you love and beyond, and also channeling it back towards yourself. And so, yes. So, yeah, I'll have more to say about this very special Moon, Jupiter, Venus triple conjunction. And we're going to talk about a lot of other powerful astrological energies, powerful energies we're just coming out of, powerful energies we're moving into. We're going to talk about how we're moving into Virgo season, a particularly strong Virgo season, because we got not one, two Virgo new moons coming. That can only happen when there's a new moon right at the beginning of Virgo season and at the end of Virgo season, and that's what's coming in Saturday. The first of those two new moons is coming in Saturday. And yeah, we're coming out of some pretty intense energies, and I think things are opening up. I think it's going to feel a little easier. I think it's probably already feeling a little easier, and I'll say more about why. But first, I just want to pause for a second and say, if you're new to the channel, my name is Matthew Stelzner, and I'm a professional astrologer and tarot reader. I love giving readings, and I'm about to do a big promotion for a large discount on my readings. And if you're interested in that, I would love for you to sign up for my email list, which you can find a link to down below. And yeah, I'm also going to be having a special new moon gathering for this first Virgo new moon this coming Saturday. And if you're interested in that, all you got to do is sign up for my email list, and you'll be notified about how to sign up. So yes, also, if you end up liking this video, please hit the like button, and I would love to have you subscribe to the channel and join this starship as we travel through time-space together. I really see my channel as a consciousness experiment where we focus on the most positive ways of working with astrological energies, and we support each other across time and space through some kind of quantum entanglement. You engage with me, I engage with you, you work with these thought forms, and together we can travel and support each other to get to the most positive timelines. And so, yes. So yeah, having said that, let's talk more about the astrology of the coming weeks. But first, I think I need to say something about the energy that we're coming out of. Yeah, a lot's been happening since the last time I posted a video. We've been deep in the Saturn-Neptune conjunction, the once in 36-year Saturn-Neptune conjunction. And you can check out videos that I've posted earlier this year to get a bigger sense of what the energy is all about and what's possible with the energy. It's such a profound one. And it's been super activated in recent weeks by the planet Mars. Mars has been opposite Saturn and Neptune. That's a pretty rare activation. The conjunctions and the oppositions are the most potent alignments. And so those just happen like once a year, a conjunction or an opposition from Mars to any part of the sky to a particular planet. And so yeah, it's a pretty major activation of the Mars Saturn energy. It's been super exact. The Saturn Neptune conjunction has been exact within a degree. Mars has been exactly opposite it recently. And so Mars just super charges whatever it combines with. It brings heat and fire and potency and potentially even a kind of aggressive form of whatever it's in alignment with. And so it can bring a more aggressive activation of the Saturn Neptune themes, which there's many positive forms of. Saturn Neptune has so much to do with spiritual maturity and spiritual wisdom, and it has a service orientation. It is prayerful, it is spiritually grounded, and yeah, it's kind of clear seeing potentially, like disillusioned clear sightedness, where Neptune can be like the illusion and Saturn is reality. So, like seeing past illusions and facing reality in a very potentially grounded and practical way that has major implications for how you move through life. It's kind of a breaking out of the matrix energy, seeing past all the lies and the bullshit of the world. There's something with Saturn Neptune that has to do with scandals and the kind of disillusioned seeing through of whatever the scandalous situation is. The way we've been having such a strong focus on the Epstein scandal that's been unfolding for a very long time, but there's been a kind of peak intensity with it in the last couple of months. And that, I think, definitely has something to do with the exact Saturn-Neptune conjunction that we've been all experiencing. But Mars being tightly opposite it until recently. Right now, Mars is, it's about 5 degrees, 4.5 degrees past Neptune. So, I mean, it's still supercharged. It's about 5 degrees past Saturn. It's still strong, but it's on the downward arc of the wave. It's on the back end of the wave. The peak intensity of it is likely diminishing. But anyway, Mars really bringing more strong versions of the Saturn Neptune, like scandal, like the potential with Saturn Neptune for challenging states of consciousness, for fear, anxiety, melancholy, paranoia, the potential for problematic projections, both where you're projecting upon someone and where they're projecting upon you. And so, yeah, it can have something to do with these more difficult states of consciousness and how we work with them. And so to have Mars so powerfully activating it, it can bring particularly intense forms of those difficult states of consciousness. It could be very prone to anxiety and sleepless, prayerful, dark nights of the soul. That kind of thing is possible with such a strong alignment. On the other hand, Mars lends its energy to the most potent and positive of the Saturn-Neptune potentials. And so in the sense that Saturn-Neptune has to do with spiritual maturity, and Mars has to do with how you move and how you pursue goals. There's a potential for like moving through life with greater spiritual maturity and spiritual wisdom and a kind of humble, prayerful way of being in the world that, again, has a kind of service orientation and where there's a really strong impulse to work to relieve suffering in the world, to relieve others from their difficult states of consciousness. I think it has something to do with working with tragic circumstances where somebody might feel a call to be of service to tragic circumstances. Like there are many of those on a collective global scale. And then there are also those more tragic or challenging circumstances where, yeah, there's a poignant sense of grief and sadness that might be there, but where you feel the call to help others and pray for others. And Saturn Neptune seems to have a special association with prayer and the impulse to pray for yourself and for others and to bring down the Neptunian grace, the Neptunian healing, and bring it to bear on the Saturnian suffering and pain, the existential pain of the earth. It has something to do with bringing together heaven and earth and bringing faith to those who are suffering, or bringing your faith and sharing it with those who are suffering. And so in that spirit, I just want to pause and send prayers out to all suffering beings, all beings who are experiencing sorrow and loss and pain and fear and sleeplessness and illness, especially those places on earth that are in the midst of war and starvation, and where there is particularly great existential angst. And so, yeah, sending love to those places on earth where people are in desperate need right now. And I guess I'm feeling moved in this moment to particularly send prayers to Gaza, where the horror that is unfolding there is particularly tragic. And so sending love and light to all beings in Gaza. And so, yeah, the Saturn Neptune really kind of pulls that kind of prayerfulness from each of us, or at least it can. And I think there's a way in which we can learn a lot about the power of prayer. There's a way in which we can feel hopeless or helpless in terms of relating to the suffering of others, the suffering of particular areas on the earth. And so, yeah, that is one version of the Saturn-Neptune energy, is hopelessness and a sense of a loss of faith. And yet there is a way that you can be of service and share yourself with others. And this is through prayer, meditation, spiritual work, where somehow by raising your own consciousness and kind of calling out to your own guides and allies and to the divine and to the archangels, there is a kind of power in that, where you call that energy in and then you send it out. And so, yes, this is the Saturn-Neptune energy. It definitely can be a very demanding one, where where you really struggle with your own consciousness. And yet it kind of calls forth from us our highest spiritual potential, and where we can draw upon all of our spiritual skills and spiritual mastery and bring it to bear on our own suffering and the suffering of others to whatever degree that we can. Some people can really only pray. Other people can go out and do direct action and be of direct service and share resources. There's lots of ways in which people can show up and be of service. But I think Saturn Neptune reminds us that prayer is powerful. If you pause, if you take time to still your consciousness, to pull it back from the distractions of your life, to pull back that resource of your attention and bring it to your heart and bring it to the divine. And then in that place, you then send the energy out towards others, towards those you love, and towards in ever expanding circles, to your community, to your nation, to the planet. And so, yeah, that's a little bit about the Mars opposite Saturn Neptune that has been super potent the last couple of weeks. And it's continuing to be potent for a little while, maybe the next week. But I would imagine that you'd be feeling like it's fading a little bit. Mars opposite Saturn can also have this quality of like blocked energy, frustration. With Saturn Neptune, it could be things like sleeplessness and fatigue. It's not the easiest energy. It can be very helpful for spiritual practice and that kind of thing. But on the whole, I definitely think it's a demanding one. And so the fact that that's diminishing in its potency, we're also coming out of Mercury retrograde ending just a few days ago, which has its own challenges. 3 weeks of things feeling a little more discombobulated is the word, I guess. Right? Feel like things are not going as according to plan as you might think or like, or you have to review things and rethink things, and it can just sometimes feel like there's not a lot of mental clarity. And so that has passed. The Mercury retrograde, Mercury has still been kind of stationing, and it has been stationary opposite Pluto, which adds another level of intensity to the recent time period. Mercury opposite Pluto can be a kind of intensity of the mind with the potential for kind of obsessive thinking, sometimes dark thoughts. There's lots of positive ways that it can come through, and I'm going to say a little bit about that. But it definitely can add a quality of darker, more intense mental energy. And if at the same time you've got the Saturn Neptune, which can be things like anxiety and difficult states of consciousness, I wouldn't be surprised if in the last few weeks you could feel like it's been a demanding time. And this Mercury Pluto is also moving away fairly rapidly in the next few days. By the time this video comes out, Mercury's a full at least 5 degrees past the opposition, and then 6 degrees, 7 degrees in the days after. By Wednesday, Thursday, the Mercury Pluto is really separating, as the Moon, Jupiter, Venus triple conjunction is coming in really strong. The Mercury Pluto is moving off. The Mars opposite Saturn Neptune is moving off. And the Jupiter Venus takes the spotlight. And so, I think this is a kind of big week for shifting out of some pretty challenging energy and moving into a more expansive, heart-opening time. At least there's that potential. And if you add to that the fact that we're moving into a new moon, each new moon represents the potential for a kind of fresh start, a new beginning, the beginning of a new wave of energy from new moon to new moon. And so this particular new moon that's coming in next Saturday is a Virgo new moon. And so we're really going to be moving strongly into Virgo season, which is a really important and special month of the year, where we're kind of moving out of summer, out of the summer energy, and into fall as we approach the autumn equinox. This is the month before the equinox. And so there's one more thing I really should mention that adds an additional level of intensity to the recent time period. In addition to the Mars opposite Saturn Neptune, the Mercury retrograde, Mercury station opposite Pluto, all of that, even the fact that we've had a Jupiter Venus conjunction happening, that just adds to a overall sense of intense energies. In addition to all that, where Mars has been opposite the Saturn Neptune conjunction, it's also been in an exact grand trine with Uranus and Pluto. The Saturn Neptune conjunction is exactly halfway between Uranus and Pluto. They're all in the first 2 degrees of the signs that they're in. Uranus in the first degree of Gemini, Pluto in the first couple of degrees of Aquarius, Saturn and Neptune in the first couple of degrees of Aries. That means they're all kind of lighting each other up. The Saturn Neptune at the midpoint and sextile to both Uranus and Pluto. It's a supercharged outer planet alignment just on its own. But to have Mars opposite the Saturn Neptune and forming the grand trine with Uranus and Pluto, it's a very supercharged alignment that we've had in the last few weeks. And so I just want to emphasize that. A grand trine that is bisected by an opposition like this, the Mars, Uranus, Pluto grand trine, and Mars opposite Saturn, Neptune, it's forming what's called a kite pattern. And it's a mix of both kind of free-flowing energies, the trines, and a kind of more dynamic hard aspect energy, the opposition. But because the grand trine got so precise and it got so exact, the opposition from Mars to Saturn, Neptune, it all lined up within a few degrees. Just looking here at my software, back on about August 8th, about eight days ago. From the moment it first got into Libra, when Mars first got into Libra, at that point, it was 1 degree opposite Saturn and Neptune, within 1 degree of Uranus, within 2 degrees of Pluto. That is so precise. And when everything is that precisely aligned, there's still the kind of flowing soft aspects of the trines, but it's also all lighting up in midpoint alignments, which are more like kind of hard aspect energies. So I'll have more to say about this Mars, Uranus, Pluto grand trine, forming the kite with the Saturn Neptune conjunction. I'll have a few personal things to share about my own experience with it recently. But for now, I just want to emphasize that, it's been super dynamic, intense, lot of different energies happening in the last couple of weeks. And I do think that things are shifting and we're moving into some new energies. We've had the Jupiter-Venus conjunction that has been really helpful for keeping our hearts open through it all. And it's going to be amplified this week when the moon forms the triple conjunction with it. And I should say it's important that it's all happening in the sign Cancer, the Cancer energy associated with emotional connection and caring and support and family and home and community. And when you combine that with Jupiter and Venus and the moon all being in that sign, it's just an especially warm-hearted and caring energy that you're likely to be experiencing in this coming week. I think there's a real potential as some of these more demanding energies are quieting down, that as the moon, Jupiter, Venus activation happens, that you could really feel a heart opening and a sense of kind of emotional relief, emotional healing. And I think that sense of the energy shifting will continue to build as we move into next weekend, with Virgo season beginning and the Virgo new moon coming in. Every time there's a new moon, there's an opportunity for a fresh start, a new beginning. And so, yes, just want to say that. And so, yeah, just to say a few words about what's been happening for me personally with some of these more intense and complex, paradoxical energies that have been happening in the last few weeks. Yeah, there's been a lot going on. But one important thing that happened for me was I had to travel home to be with my parents in Florida. I've been living here in Colombia almost 3 years with my wife, Marianella, and my son, my 2.5-year-old son, Stevie. And this is the first time that I had to be separated from them. It wasn't possible for all three of us to go. And so, yeah, that was just inherently challenging. And there was a lot of grief around that and other emotions. But at the same time, it just felt super important that I go and bring all of my healing presence to the situation, which is very Saturn Neptune. It has a lot to do with health and healing and being of service. It was a very deep kind of spiritual time, I would say, for my parents and myself. And yeah, there were definitely like healing waters in the midst of the challenging waters. And so that was happening. That was a big focus of this kind of peak of the Saturn-Neptune conjunction being activated by Mars. And then a couple weeks ago, I got back, and it's just been like full on since my return. Of course, having to catch up on so many things and show up for Marianella and Stevie starting a new school program. And it means a commute that is significant, and it means getting up earlier. We were already not getting much sleep, and now we gotta get up even earlier. So that has been challenging, but totally worth it. Stevie loves the new school, and yeah, but that's been happening. Sleep issues can be a Saturn-Neptune thing, especially with Mars opposite the Saturn-Neptune. If you've been dealing with any sleep stuff, that's pretty classic. If you've also been just like trying to figure out how to take care of yourself around sleep, and putting a lot of focus there, that's a really important thing with Saturn Neptune that I've shared in previous videos. It has so much to do with taking care of your own health and your own sleep, taking care of yourself in terms of rest, and making sure that you're getting the nourishment that you need. And all of that is very Saturn Neptune. And to have Mars activating it, it can really bring that to the foreground. And so yeah, that's been happening. And just a general sense of things accelerating, especially in the last week or two, as Mars has come onto the Uranus-Pluto grand trine. One of the things that can be said about that is it's just things speeding up. Mars just has to do with movement, taking action, leaping ahead. Uranus electrifies that. Pluto intensifies it. And there's a sense of, you got to get moving. You got to get things going. The challenge is with Mars opposite Saturn, there can be a sense of frustration, blocked energy, like trying to get going, but things blocking or frustrating the forward movement, kind of like the traffic jams that I've been in the last week. That sense of I've got to get them to school, but there's all these obstacles in the way. It's frustrating, it's challenging, but I got to get going. It's that kind of vibe. Another thing that's happened with the Mars Uranus Pluto Grand Trine that I think is important to emphasize. Uranus has a lot to do with technology, and Pluto intensifies it. Pluto trine Uranus intensifies it in like a really flowing way where things just open up, they flower, and they flower in a way that has a power to it and an evolutionary dimension. And I think there's lots of technology stuff that's unfolding, but of course, the biggest one is artificial intelligence. And I have found in this last week, of course, one of the big things that happened this past week was ChatGPT 5 was released. There's things happening with AI every day, so there's breakthroughs happening all over the place with different companies, with different apps and so forth. But this was a big one, ChatGPT 5 releasing, and it's not had the best reception, which maybe that's the Saturn in the mix. But I was kind of inspired to check back in with AI. I've been following it very closely since 2 years ago when GPT-4 came online. That was the first time I really explored it. And at that time, I was just super impressed. And I could tell that this was going to be huge. It already was huge in 2023 when I was starting to explore it and play around with it and see what was possible with it. But I didn't really quite see how it was going to be useful for me yet. I just played around with the image generation stuff and definitely, had some interesting conversations with the app, but it didn't quite compel me to the point where I was just like integrating it into my life. I have over the last 2 years really paid attention to the AI space and follow several YouTube channels and definitely understand where the cutting edge is. I've been keeping up with that. But it hasn't been until this week under the Mars-Uranus-Pluto Grand Trine. Mars-Uranus is a kind of classic for tech upgrades where Mars gives that push to the Uranus technology, and it has this quality of speed, Mars Uranus, like the computer getting faster, the tech being faster. And so, yeah, tech upgrades are a big thing. And I didn't necessarily see that happening for me in the past week, but I just decided to check out ChatGPT and see if there was a way that I could integrate it more into my life. And I was very surprised to find that I was understanding the power of the tech and the whole idea of it potentially being a personal assistant, which for many people it already has been, but it hadn't quite happened for me. And I just started putting a lot of my writing into ChatGPT and seeing how it could help me organize my writing, whether it's, past blog posts, emails. I ended up getting transcripts from my YouTube videos and just collecting a lot of other writing. And what I was surprised to find is just how amazing the technology is for organizing writing. Of course, that it's its number one skill, but so I guess I've been kind of waiting for the moment where I could really start taking advantage of the technology. And it just has happened in this past week under the exact Mars, Uranus, Pluto Grand Trine, all in air signs, by the way. It's super significant that Uranus has been in Gemini, which I think it just naturally does really well in that sign. Gemini is very mercurial and playful, and it has that kind of mental energy. And Uranus has to do with the sky and taking flight, and it has to do with kind of brilliant awakenings of the mind potentially. And so it has, yeah, it's a particularly great one for communications technology and technologies that facilitate and open the mind in different ways. And so, yeah, under this Mars, Uranus, Pluto grand trine, and with the release of ChatGPT 5, I just was pulled into it. I just started exploring it. I started to interact with it much more intensely than I have, even though I've been following it quite strongly. I started to experiment with it, and there were a couple of things that were the breakthroughs for me in my exploration of AI tech in this past week. One was I just found that I was able to talk naturally to the app. I was able to just have a conversation with the app in a way that felt very relatable, very human in a way. I've never experienced talking to any kind of app as being natural or easy or flowing. Dictating into an iPhone or talking to Siri or any other of the popular AI tools that have been around for a while, it just has never felt natural to me. And yet, when I explored the app this week, I just found I could talk very easily and at a pace that is sometimes my natural rhythm is pretty fast. And I just found that ChatGPT could keep up with me. And it was doing perfect dictation, and it was responding perfectly, and it was happening pretty quickly. And so it didn't feel disjointed. And so, yeah, I found that it could understand me in a way that felt super intelligent. And that was kind of a delight and a kind of revolution for me. I was like, wow, I can talk to this and it doesn't feel too weird. It felt like very personal. And it's partly, I think there's a new voice function that was coming out this week that I think made this feel particularly compelling. But then another thing that I think has happened in just the last couple of months with ChatGPT anyway, is it now has a memory function. And so it can remember previous threads, previous chats, and it can kind of keep track of everything that you explore with it. And so that is pretty amazing because it can remember anything that I've inputted back to the beginning of my relationship with the technology. And particularly what I started to explore was just putting in a lot of my different writings, whether it's, blog posts or emails or promotions, just inputting that and then basically training it. That was the experiment, was can I train this AI to understand me? Can it get a sense of who I am and what I'm looking for? And can it help me get organized? Can it help me with my different writing projects? Can it help me write better emails? Can it help me put together all of my disjointed notes and Word documents and the many different places that I've written things? Can it help me get it organized? And what I've found is, yes, it is helping me. I've been able to get transcripts from my YouTube videos and put those whole transcripts. I put like 40 videos worth of transcripts into ChatGPT. It could hold all of that in one thread and synthesize it and suggest things. And it was making PDFs for me and asking if I wanted to create databases of things. And putting together all of the thoughts that I've ever shared in different places on a Moon-Venus conjunction or on a Jupiter-Uranus combination, that kind of thing. I've discovered, wow, this is going to actually be very helpful. So my point is this Mars, Uranus, Pluto grand trine is just really supportive of that kind of breakthrough, whether it's with technology or in other areas of your life where there's a sense of breaking free of past constraints, past constraints of older forms of tech or past constraints of other things in your life. And so, yes, at the same time, with the Jupiter-Venus conjunction, there's just been this big heart opening that's especially happened since my reunion with my family when I returned from Florida, and a sense of, really, Stevie Rose is just flowering in a beautiful way at this point. He's 2.5, and so he's a toddler, and he's a handful, and it's challenging. But he's also just becoming more and more of a beautiful, loving little, he's a beautiful, loving, sweet, and he's just a very special little boy. And to see him go to his new school and just how happy he is and how he's smiling all the time, it's just been, and also other things happening with connecting with other family members and just a sense of the love force being strong with this Jupiter-Venus conjunction. And so, those are a few personal reflections. And now I want to take a little bit more of a detailed look at this next month, week by week, and I'm going to put the chart up here on the screen and just walk you through a few things, give you a sense of some other energies that are coming online. And so I'm actually realizing that this video is going a little long, so I'm going to end it here, and thank you for watching. If you found it helpful, please hit that like button, consider subscribing and joining me on this channel. And check out the email list link below, and you'll be able to get in on the promotion that's happening this week and join up for the free new moon gathering that's next Saturday on Zoom. Just sign up for my email list and you'll get notified. And so sending blessings and love and light, and check out the next video, which is already recorded and it'll post soon. Blessings.